Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Teresia Gitao, and this is the Echo Gitu KE podcast, where we discuss the matters between faith and environment. Today, I am joined by a colleague and a friend, and this colleague is an astute environmentalist with hands on experience in environmental management, community and stakeholder engagement and advocacy. He has a bachelor in environmental science and is currently working towards his master's degree in environmental management with the Open University in the UK. He holds several certificates on environmental multilateralism, a serial volunteer for several NGOs. He is currently the Programs Officer for Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability in Africa, that is FINESA, the Climate Yes, that is the Youth Ecumenical Summit. He is the regional coordinator in Africa, and also he is a member of Stockholm Plus 50 Global Youth Task Force, where he has contributed directly as one of the editors of the Global Youth Handbook and the Global Youth Policy Paper. He is an ardent advocate for environmental sustainability and care for creation. This friend of mine and our guest today is very keen and highly interested in participating and actively contributing in environmental multilateral discussions with the aim of bridging the gap between decision making, policy formulation, and on ground implementation and performance monitoring. His ambition is geared towards devising sustainable solutions for environmental management. Please help me welcome Mr. Cyprian Mount.
Sure, and thank you for having me.
After COP, it was very hectic. You know, we had to do this during in Sharm el Sheikh.
Yes,
But
it's not too late.
it's not too late. Well, by the way, let me even leave this a bit. I'm pretty much interested in climate, yes. Climate Youth Ecumenical Summit, because you understand with the African coordinator for
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
I am wondering, please just let us know what is climate yes, why is it important, and what are you doing in that space?
Okay, so last year we did a campaign that we named Climate Youth Ecumenical Summit 2022.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a campaign towards addressing environmental injustices, especially in multilateral spaces. And last year we were focused on the COP27, which happened in Egypt. Yeah, and to prepare ourselves towards the COP, we had several youth gatherings in regions that we called them hubs. We had 5 of them in East Africa, South Africa, Central Africa, the United Kingdom, and in Italy. So, Youth Ecumenical is a movement, a global movement, bringing in faith, young people of faith, mostly Christians, because we have realized that the issue of the climate crisis and most of the triple planetary crisis, that is climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, they are issues which are affecting young people across, regardless of denomination, regardless of wherever you are coming from. But then we realize that the voice of the faith actors, or the voice of the people of faith, is very important in the negotiation table. Yes.
And one thing that I want to know is, why is climate yes important?
Yeah, as I have mentioned, the aspect of the component of faith in environmental issues has been left out for a long time. And looking to the lives of young people right now and decisions that are being made, most definitely they will affect the young people in the coming few years, or in the future, and future generations. So that is why young people and especially of faith, are important in these discussions. And why young people of faith? Okay, in our churches, there is a kind of trust, kind of togetherness, kind of unity and harmony in the way we conduct ourselves in the church.
Yes.
And reflecting and thinking about the biblical teachings or the eco theology, theologies around environment, I think it is an important area that we need to explore to bring change. That is why climate change is important.
Yeah. Okay. I want to know, because now I know you're involving the young people of faith in it. What is climate change, doing currently?
Okay. As I have said, the campaign that we ran last year focused on the COP27. And what we did, during our gatherings, we really shared experiences, we really shared ideas, and we also came up with solutions that really, if implemented, can try or can address the issue of climate crisis. And we communicated this through a statement that we named the Global Climate Change Statement to leaders at COP. And we were looking at thematic areas of loss and damage and issues of fossil fuel. And we were pushing for a fund to address loss and damage, and also looking back to the commitments that were made in the previous COPs around climate finance, and trying to amplify our voice and push for action towards that as well. And the issue around fossil fuels, our key message is to try to invest more in green energy. So that was all about what we were able to gather for COP27. But leave alone that, the All Africa Conference of Churches convened a congress, All Africa Youth Congress in Ghana. And as climate years, we had a side event or side events during that period to try also to communicate the same issues and also to hear more voices from young Christians and their experiences with all these climate issues. And also that informed our statement that we presented at COP. That is basically what we engaged in for last year towards COP27. But currently, we are brainstorming on the way forward. Not only focusing on COP28, but also looking into what kind of concrete projects can we engage in as young people of faith. How can we bring change or influence the issue of climate in our churches? And that is why, for example, I would give an example of our group in Uganda. They are pushing for a climate year's forest with the government and in working together with the church. So the idea is to get the land from the government, but then mobilize the young people in the church to contribute or to be part of that activity. And we are hoping that we will implement such kind of projects in other countries. The same thing is happening in Kenya with the group that is in the climate years, and especially colleagues in the Sinesa, trying to see a way on how we can grow trees and try to bring change through concrete actions. In Rwanda, they are engaging in cleanups, trying to see how we can do away with the menace of pollution. And it's not just cleaning, but also trying to address the issue of management. After cleaning, how are we managing the waste? Where are we taking it? And that is, in conjunction of working together with the government in Rwanda as well. So those are some of the activities that we are trying to explore to bring change in terms of concrete actions on the ground. In South Africa, there is this issue of mental health, which is a consequence of people who have undergone or have experienced some of the challenges that are coming up along with the climate issue. Like, for example, when people lose their property due to extreme weather events, they are left with nothing, and like trying to rebuild themselves, trying to bring back whatever they had. It is a process, and the issue of mental health is also affecting young people. So those are some of the activities that we are engaging in currently.
I want to take you back, and the question that I'm wondering, because I know people of faith and also different groups at COP, they normally present their global statements or papers. And I always wonder, just wherever you are seated at your seat, I'm wondering, do you think that these papers are normally hard or they are not hard? And if they are or not hard, why do you think is the case?
That is a good question, Tez. And for a change, it's always a process. But if we don't present our ideas, or if we don't present our solutions, then how are we going to make sure that they are being incorporated or they are being considered in adoption of some of these frameworks that are trying to address the climate issue? Okay, ours is a proposal or a request, but we really push for it to make sure that it is adopted. But then, apart from that, we engage directly with our leaders, the political leaders, leaders in the government, and especially the negotiators, the state negotiators who are sitting in the negotiation table. So we are trying to do what we call lobbying and networking. And through that, we can try to convince or try to sell our idea, so that once these people whom we trust, they will take forward our proposals. Yes.
And just going back to also the previous question before this one, I want to know, you have given us examples of what you are doing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But now I am wondering, what are some of the challenges that as climateers you are facing, and especially here in Africa?
Yeah, of course, every initiative, every project, every event has challenges, has opportunities in terms of implementation and even planning. But the biggest challenge we have as young people is the resources. For example, when we want to establish a forest, we'll need to get the seedlings that we might need to buy from either our pockets or find donors to fund such kind of an activity. But also thinking about establishing a nursery which is really working, and it will also need some kind of resources which young people may not have. The same thing when we are trying to come together to try to address some of these issues or share ideas, we also need resources. So I think the biggest challenge with young people is resources in terms of finance, in terms of the tangible things that we might need in our activities. For example, during cleanups, we need gloves, we need gabuts, protective wear, and that will require us to have money to buy them, which can be a challenge for us as well. Yeah, so it depends on which activity and how we want to do it. And yeah,
As I get to listen to you, and you keep mentioning the youth, us as the youth, all the time. There's no, like, that is the main reference that I'm getting to here as we continue with this. But I'm wondering, what do you think the current youths are missing on environmental issues? Like, what is it that they're not getting? And especially Africa. If let's alone. I know the rest of the world, but let us focus on Africa.
thank you, Teresia, for that. And the reason why I'm keeping reference on youth because I mentioned earlier that climate change is a movement of young people. Yes. So that is it. But okay, what is missing really? Uh, Young people need a lot of capacity strengthening in terms of knowledge, to have a deep understanding of what we are trying to talk about, the climate crisis. What is it? What does it mean? Scientifically, the politics involved, the dynamics, everything, because we know that some of these challenges are complex, they are multisectoral, they are cross-cutting, and having that knowledge or having that understanding will be a big advantage for the young people or for the youth. And that is one thing that I could say is really much needed for the young people.
And as you've mentioned, I'm wondering, do you think that there's hope? Because whenever we attend these conferences, they normally say that Africa is the worst hit with impacts of climate change, which is true. Yet we don't pollute as much as possible, as we don't even get close to 4%, right? And I hear, as you've said, challenges, lack of resources. And we normally say, let us adapt, let us mitigate. Are there, is there hope for the young people in such a way that we can try to use the resources that we have now, even if it's kidogo, like in small quantity, to make sure that we are moving a step? The reason as why I'm asking that is because I want to know what can we do as African youth right now to adapt, to mitigate against climate change.
Thank you for that question, and really, I would like to mention what we are calling climate justice. Yes, it is true that there are countries which are more developed than others, and the worst thing, all the sudden thing, is that the countries that have not developed, or those which are developing, are the ones who are really experiencing the impact of climate change the most. Why? Because they don't have the capacity, to adapt, to mitigate. Yeah. And why then are we talking about climate justice? Because countries which have the capability or which have the capacity, they also need to support those who are poor to get to a level where they can adapt.
Poor broke.
Yeah, whichever. But generally, poor countries or developing countries or underdeveloped, they need support in terms of finances, in terms of other resources, to be able to adapt to the climate change crisis, and also to be able to mitigate some of the effects or impacts of climate. Yeah, but then I can say I can say there's hope. You saw during COP27 that it was agreed that yes, a climate fund to address loss and damage is really needed. But now the modalities of that fund is now the problem. But that is now what we are looking forward towards COP28, to see how is this fund going to be implemented. How is it going to benefit those who really need it the most? And how are those who are capable going to contribute the most as well? So those are some of the dynamics that will be really following up towards COP28 to ensure that uh, all that, all the agreement, the agreement is really implemented.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I'd like to mention is that climate change is a global movement. So we are not really like limiting ourselves to say the poor
Mhm.
or so we are trying to see where is the nexus. How are we trying to help each other? How are we trying to address this issue together to make sure that we get a sustainable solution? That is really what climate change is driving at.
Mhm. Know whether, because you're focused on youth, are there opportunities in the climate space for the youth, and especially youth of faith?
Okay, in terms of opportunities, what
Economic opportunities.
economic opportunities? Okay, really, opportunities would just show up, would just come depending on what activity we are really trying to implement out there.
Mhm.
But ours is not really so much about what we want to gain as individuals. You know, we are trying to collectively address the issue of climate, which is affecting everybody.
Mhm.
People of faith or non-faith actors.
Mhm.
Climate is affecting everybody.
Yeah.
So if we really want to approach it in a way that we want to have, like, okay, we are looking for economic opportunities, then I don't think that we will be able to achieve our goal.
Mhm.
So as climate years, what we really want to see is a change in the way we act or the way we behave as human beings, because we know that historically the issue of climate change is a result of human action or what humans have been doing for the past years. But how can we reverse that? How can we change our attitudes towards the environment? How can we change our behavior? And what are the things that we can really do? Doesn't matter how small they are, whether they are bringing money or not, but what is it that we really want to do to get to address this issue? Because we are even more worried about future generations, our children. If ourselves we are suffering, then what kind of life will our children live? Yeah, that is basically it. So we are trying to see how really humans can live in harmony with the environment.
And as we finish, I would like you to just summarize in 2 words what you have just said, how we can find the All Africa Conference of Churches on social media, climate years, if it's also present on social media, and also how we can find you.
Okay, if you're really interested in knowing more about climate years or even connecting with the climate years movement, just Google climateyears.org.
Mhm.
That is our website. You will get a link to our Facebook account, our Twitter, our Instagram, and you'll be able to, connect with us in one way or the other. There is also a provision for you to contact us directly via email. That is also another one way of reaching out to climate. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.